things about bass fishing is there's just so many different ways to catch fish, from topwater baits to jigs and worms, shallow fish, deep fish, fish that are in between. There's literally an infinite amount of ways and an infinite amount of baits that you can catch bass on. But sometimes one technique really dominates over another, and that really depends upon the time of the season and the water temperature and what the bait fish are doing, or the forage that the bass want to eat most, what they're doing. And when the forage suspends, like when the water gets to be a little bit colder and things start to really cool down, and all those bait fish, the shad and minnows and everything else, they kind of get within the water column. They're not on the bottom, they're not on the top, they're somewhere in between. And that's really when a jerkbait really shines, because it mimics those bait fish quite a bit, and it also is a bait that I can get right there in the strike zone of that bass. Now, a lot of times, the bass won't move very far to attack a bait or attack something, so I need to get that bait and keep it right there in the strike zone of the fish. There's also times when your traditional shallow diving jerkbait, a 3, 4, or 5 foot deep running bait, just won't get deep enough to be able to get in that strike zone of the bass. So that's when I need to go to, a little bit different bait. And the one that I'm going to pick now is a deep version. This is a Rapala X-Rap Deep. It has a longer bill, so that it makes that bait dive deeper. So instead of your traditional jerk baits that'll go 3, 4, 5 foot deep, depending upon the size line that you fish. Now I fish fluorocarbon line, usually 10 or 12 pound test, and that will make one of these baits dive up to 15 feet deep, especially if you pick the bigger size, which is the number 10, that bait will dive up to 15 feet, and if you go with the smaller size to try to match the size of the bait fish, that bait may dive about 10 to 12 foot deep, depending upon the size line. So the lighter the line that you're going to fish, the deeper the bait's going to go, and it will get in the strike zone of that bass. Now that they're in that 10, 12 foot, 15 foot strike zone, it'll keep that bait and be right there where you can catch a whole lot more fish. The retrieve for this type of bait can range from a couple of different things. Now the traditional jerk, pause, cast it out, get the bait down there, jerk, pause, repeat type of cadence will work really good. But there's another really cool technique when the water starts to get really cold that I like, and it's almost like fishing a plastic worm. So you'd make a real long cast, and the thing is with this X-Rap Deep too is it has an internal weight system which will get you a little bit longer cast than traditional baits, so you can actually get to throw it out there a little bit further, and that'll make the bait dive a little bit deeper as well. The longer you can make your cast, the deeper that bait's going to go. Fish it with 10 or 12 pound test fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon line sinks too, by the way, so that'll actually keep your bait down there a little bit more. But what I want to do with this particular almost worm style technique is throw the bait out there and kind of pump my rod up, and what that'll do is that'll kind of create that action that these bait fish have, and I like this technique especially when the water starts to get really cold. At the beginning parts of the water change, when it just starts to get colder, that twitch pause seems to start work really well, and then as the water really starts to dip down into the high 40s, mid 40s, that range, the bait fish really start to slow down. So that, cast out and then kind of raise my rod tip, and it seems like you're almost not even giving the bait any action, but that really mimics the, what the bait fish do that time of year, and it'll get you a whole lot more strikes. So a couple different techniques to try to, get a few more strikes when the fish get down in that strike zone, and you just can't reach them with your traditional shallow running jerk baits. Try a long bill jerk bait. You'll be surprised the results that you'll get. I'm Mike DelVisco, and I'll see you on the water. And for more bass fishing info, log on to FINS'nTALES.com or like them on Facebook. Fins and Tales, your hotspot for bass fishing stories, videos, people, places, events, how-tos, product reviews, and so much more.